If we're going to talk about parenting, what we really need to do is talk about the principles that govern parenting. Now, what is a principle? Let's talk about it. What is a principle? Well, a principle is something that's bigger than me, it's bigger than you, and it's something that's really, really real, whether you believe it is or not. Let me give you an example. The principle of gravity. Gravity works here. It works where you're at. It works on the other side of the world. It works everywhere. Now, when we come in contact with any principle, we have a couple of choices. We can either align with that principle or we can ignore that principle. So let's have some fun with this. I want you to think, how could you align with gravity to, say, make you money? Now, you may wonder what this has to do with parenting. We're going to get into that. But let's talk about this for a second because it's very important. What could you do to align with gravity to make you money? Again, when we have a principle, we have two choices, align or ignore. What could we do to align with it? And let me tell you some of the answers I've heard. I've asked this question to audiences all over the world, actually. And let me tell you what I've heard. I've heard things like, well, you could build a hydroelectric dam. You could build a dam across the river, and the water could flow through the dam, and you could sell your electricity and make millions of dollars selling electricity. What if you were to build a ski resort? A lot of people, I was in Vail, Colorado not too long ago, and what do people do when they get to Vail, Colorado? Well, some of you may know they like to ski. If you get to Vail, Colorado, you can take a ride up the lift, and you can have this thrilling experience pulled down by gravity. Well, you could say that the people in Vail, Colorado have aligned with gravity to make them money. So building a hydroelectric dam or building a ski resort in Vail, Colorado. I've had people say, well, you could build a skydiving company. You could do bungee jumping. I had one person say you could do plastic surgery, which we won't go there. But the point is, if you respect this principle that's everywhere. It works here, it works where you're at, it even works out in space. It keeps the Earth going around the sun, it keeps the moon going around the Earth. It's everywhere. And if I align with it, it could possibly make me wealthy. But what happens if I'm careless with, instead of aligning with gravity, what if I'm careless with or I ignore gravity? What could happen? Well, that's right. You could figuratively fall off a cliff and die. So here's the point. Gravity's just there. It's everywhere. It could either make me rich with my hydroelectric dam or my ski resort, or gravity could kill me. Do you see that? Now, the reason I'm talking about this is because there are principles in being a dad, in being a good parent, in being a checked-in good dad that are as real as gravity. And we're going to talk about some of those principles during this course. And you have a choice. You can align with it, or you can ignore it to your peril. But what we don't want to do is ignore it to our peril. So I want you to be thinking, what are the principles that are as real as gravity? What are they? What are they really? And then, how can I align with them? Now, here's the thing about principles. Principles are not the latest fad. They're not the latest book. They're not the latest social media or something or other. They're not the latest technique or quick fix. Not at all. Principles are ancient. Just like gravity, they're timeless. They're ancient. They've been around a long time. And so, what are they? And that's what we're going to be talking about in this course. And I want you to think about that today. What are the difference between principles and values? So here's the difference. Principles are the actual terrain. It's what's really there. So if I look out my window or if I'm driving through the countryside, I can see exactly what's there. There may be a mountain, there may be a hill, there may be a field, and it's real. It's there. Those are principles, what's really, really real. And then there's values. Values are, what do I value? Maybe I value something and maybe I don't. Well, here's the problem. Sometimes values don't match up with principles. Let me give you an example. If you want to build trust with your children, if you want to build trust with anyone, you've got to walk your talk, you've got to be honest, you've got to keep your word. You can't really get around that. Now, what if I value being someone who lies and cheats and steals, doesn't keep my word, doesn't walk my talk? That's my value. I can value it, but the problem is my map, which is values, doesn't match up with the terrain. You see that? So if I have a map of New York, but I'm trying to get around San Francisco, it's not going to work. You have to have a map that matches up with what's really, really there. Principles are what are really, really there. Values are simply the map we hold in our heads. And so here's the thing. If our map, our values match up with what's really there, the principle, we do well. If our map doesn't match up, then we don't do as well. Does that make sense? So what we want to do is start to value the things that are really, really real. So, gravity is real. I can align with it and build my ski resort and make millions of dollars. Honesty is real. I can align with it and have a lot of people trust me. And if I can value gravity and value honesty, then my map now matches the terrain. On the other hand, if I value being dishonest or a liar and a cheat, then now my map doesn't match up with what's really there. And that's one of the things we need to teach our children too, is the difference between what's valued. We hear a lot of talk in society these days about, well, what's your values? What's your values? What's your values? And that's an important conversation. Don't get me wrong. Finding out what you value is important. But an even more important question, in my view, is to find out what's really, really real. What are the principles really there? And then make it align, my values align with the terrain, which are principles. Make my values, which is what I care about, line up with what's really, really there. So if there's one thing I want you to do differently because you watched this segment, I want you to start thinking, what are the principles that govern everything? What are they really? And how can I align with them?